Hello, everybody. Mr. Foley here today, and we are going to look at Islam. So, our third religion, our monotheistic religion, religions with one God. And so, we're going to look at its history and kind of some of the beliefs that it has today. And we'll move on from there. So, here we go. To begin, okay, you could fill in your notes for this. I probably have them online. Maybe you have a paper copy, depending on your situation. Your first note here is an important one. A follower of Islam is a Muslim. Islam is the faith, and a Muslim is a follower of the faith. And therefore, you don't ask somebody if they're Islam, because then you're asking them if they're a religion, which is silly. I don't ask people if they're a religion. You could ask them if they're Muslim. That'd be okay. So Muslim is a follower, and the faith is Islam itself. Now, the origins of Islam. We're going to see that Islam is going to be the third of our monotheistic religions. First, you have Judaism, then Christianity, and now you're going to have Islam. And so, while Judaism is thousands of years before Jesus' birth, Christianity starts with the birth of Jesus, Islam is going to come 600 years later, in 622 AD. It's founded in the Middle East, in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia, and the founder is Muhammad. And Muhammad is considered the prophet, a very, very important person in Islam. So, as we go along, feel free to pause whenever you need to. The Holy Book is the Quran, and it's the Word of God as received by Muhammad. So, it really guides religious and daily lives, and it helps to guide issues such as marriage, so that you know what to do in life, how to act, different things like that. It is written in the Arabic language, and some Muslims believe that it should only be read in the Arabic language. Others are okay with it being translated to other languages. And so its origins comes from Muhammad. And as the story goes, Muhammad went to a cave to pray, and an angel of God came to him and spoke to him. And he received God's words through this angel, and he wrote them down, and what he wrote down became known as the Quran. And therefore, the Quran is a very holy book because Muslims believe that it is the word of God directly from God, spoken to Muhammad, who then wrote it down. The second holy book is the Hadith, and this discusses the life and teachings of Muhammad. And, because he's considered the prophet, he's one that people feel you should follow. He's a good example, and therefore, people look to the Hadith to figure out, oh, how do I live a good life? How do I live like the Prophet Muhammad? And so that might be a book you see in the home of a Muslim as well. Now, there's big connections between Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Make no mistake about it. For example, Muslims believe the Quran follows the Torah and the Gospels. And so they believe not only in the Torah or the Quran, but the Torah and the Gospels as well. However, what's different is they believe that some of the scriptures have been corrupted by people who maybe they interpreted them falsely. For example, they believe in the Torah and they believe in the Gospels of Christianity, but they do not believe the part of the Gospels that talks about Jesus being crucified and rising from the dead. They may believe he's crucified, but they don't believe he rose from the dead because they believe God, Allah, is one. And therefore, Jesus can't rise from the dead because he cannot be God. And so while they believe some of the same text, they don't necessarily believe everything that the texts say, such as the crucifixion of Jesus. Now, the creation story itself, they have the same beliefs as Jews and Christians, so all three of them share the idea of Adam and Eve. The connection throughout history. Well, here's where we see some connections between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Okay? Christianity and Judaism come from Abraham and the birth of his son Isaac. Now, if you remember from our Judaism unit, Isaac was born to Sarah at a very old age, and they didn't expect they could have an angel, and it was kind of a miracle of God that they did. Now, before that happened, we see another part of the story. I want to warn you, it's a little PG-13. Here's what we had happen before that. Sarah was old with age. And when you're old in ancient times and a woman, people look at you as if God has cursed you if you have not had a child. And therefore, Sarah wanted a child, but she didn't feel she could have one herself. So she had her maidservant, Hagar, sleep with Abraham. She literally went to Hagar and Abraham and said, hey, you two should sleep together so we can have a child, so that, you know, I am honored by at least having a child in the home. So Hagar and Abraham go together and they have a son. His name is Ishmael. And followers, descendants of Ishmael, to a degree, go on to become people in the religion of Islam. And followers of Abraham and Isaac go on and become Jews and Christians. And so you see that Islam kind of references Ishmael as the founder, whereas Judaism and Christianity look at Isaac. So kind of an interesting connection there. Moving forth, there are a variety of denominations in Islam. There are two main denominations, the first being the Sunni, which is about 87% of people, and the Shia being around 13% people. There are others as well, but they make up a much smaller minority of Islamic people. Muslims. I should have said Muslim the first time. The holy building in Islam is known as a mosque, and you can see it right here. And there are some distinctive features of it. First off, you have the dome. Most mosques will have a dome. As you can see, it's gold here, a little different here. Then you have the minaret. This is a tall, skinny tower that's used as a place or a call for prayer. And so in Islamic countries, they pray 5 times a day. And during their time of prayer, out of the minaret, you'll hear speakers blaring out the prayer. In olden times, people would be up and they would be chanting out the prayer themselves, but now they use speakers. And so in a lot of countries at this time of prayer, people will stop what they're doing, whether they be in the streets, whether they be in their homes. They'll lay down a prayer mat and they'll pray to Allah. Each of your holy buildings, as we said, the mosque, will have what's called a mihrab. It's a semicircle niche, and it faces the direction of Mecca. For us, that would be to the east. And so when you're in the building, you can always tell the direction of Mecca, which is the holy city in Islam. A mosque will have a minbar. This is a pulpit used by the imam, who is known as their preacher. Now, the imam means leader in Arabic. That is the name of the religious leader in Islam. And this is a person chosen by the people because of their standing in the community, because of their knowledge. Different than we see from Judaism and Christianity. This isn't a person that technically has gone to school to become this role. It's more a person that's respected in the community they feel should be a religious leader. Symbols for Judaism include the Kaaba, this large rectangular structure here, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and the crescent and the star. There are no official symbols of Islam, but these are the two that you most commonly see. So there are 5 main practices in Islam, and we're going to look at 2 of these in more detail in a little bit here. The first one is Shahada. This is a declaration of faith, and this is said, if you want to enter the faith, you say this, and you're supposed to say it every day, just to kind of declare your faith in Allah. The second one is Salat, and this is prayer 5 times a day. So there are 5 specific times a day where Muslims are supposed to pray. And it doesn't matter if you're in a country that's predominantly Islamic or if you're in the United States. You always pray during these 5 times. I know I had a summer that my friend Amir Hussein Kazai was living with us. And Amir is Muslim. And there were times where all of a sudden he kind of escaped for a second. I went and see him, and I'd look, and he'd be in his room. He had his prayer mat down because it was his time to pray. Zakat, which is giving to the poor. So they focus on giving to the poor during a month of Ramadan, which is a time of fasting, a time where they don't eat during the daylight hours. I'll talk more about this in a second. And the 5th one, which we'll watch a video on, is called the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. And so once in your lifetime, if you're Muslim, you are required to go on the Hajj, this pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia. And it's a really big deal. We'll look at that in a minute. So let's take a look. If we were Muslims and we were going to pray, what time would our prayers be? Well, they have Ellsworth, Kansas. That won't work. So we'll put in Baldwin because that will work for a time. So you have different times of the day that you need to pray. Usually there are 5. Now they have another one. They have 6 in here. So one of these would not be included. But you can kind of see the different times here. Okay. 7:15, 12:24, 3, 5:30, 6:51. And so this is something that you'd have to consider, and you'd have to figure out how to work that into your day. Um, if you would be in school, it may be something you work with your teacher, your principal, to figure out, is there a time that I can slip away to pray at these times? If you're in the workplace, this can become kind of difficult in the United States if you don't have a work that can allow you to leave at certain times. I know there's a story about the Kohler factory in Wisconsin, and they had a high Muslim population, and they wanted to pray at their times of prayer. And the debate was, can they have their religious right to have a time of prayer, even if it means that the factory line is going to have to shut down or slow down because there's so many Muslims leaving at that time. And so they had to figure out a solution to that issue because on a factory line, you can't everybody leave at the same time. So it can be kind of tricky to figure out those 5 times of prayer if you are in a non-Muslim country. All right, so let's talk Ramadan, the month of fasting. This is a time when you would give money to the poor, and you would spend this time, trying to not eat or drink during the day, and only eat and drink when the sun goes down, which is difficult, right? And the focus is not just on the food, it's about cleansing your soul. It's about really realizing that you are dependent on God, and kind of giving your time during the day as a sacrifice to your God, to Allah. So a story about Ramadan. This comes from, it's years old now, but it's about a man named Hussein Abdullah. Hussein Abdullah used to be a safety for the Vikings. He went on to play for the Chiefs for a while, and now he is retired. So here's his story about Ramadan. Remember, you cannot eat or drink during the daytime hours, and for him, this occurred during training camp, and this is back when training camp was a lot more difficult than it is today. Mankato, Minnesota. Hussein Abdullah is approaching his most challenging month of the football season. That's when the Minnesota Vikings backup safety observes Ramadan, the Islamic month of fasting and prayer. As a practicing Muslim, Abdullah will not eat or drink at all during daylight hours for the 30-day period that begins Wednesday. Even while sprinting in the heat and humidity during drills, sometimes in full pads, Abdullah is adamant about his faith. He will not allow himself so much as a cup of water until the sun sets and before it rises. I'm putting nothing before God, nothing before my religion, Abdullah says. This is always something I choose to do, not something I have to do. So I'm going to fast. This time, the Vikings will be better able to help him handle the lack of nourishment. Last year, it occurred in early September, and we saw a dip in his performance, Coach Brad Childers said. We said, what's wrong with Hussein Abdullah? It doesn't seem like he has enough spunk. Abdullah worked recently with the team's nutritionist on a meal and hydration plan to make sure he got enough calories to maintain his energy, stamina, and health in the coming weeks. He'll eat a big breakfast and a big dinner, when it's dark, of course, and get up in the middle of the night to take a protein shake. I think we have our arms around it now and know when he's going to wake up and when he's going to eat and when we can pack on him before the sun comes up, Childers said. Last year, he was shouldering it all by himself. He's playing well. He is a good special teams player. He's interchangeable and can be in the emergency nickel situation because he is a smart guy. He's got a great football instinct. He is a guy you pull for. So kind of interesting there to look at how you have the situation where he's kind of doing this on his own. And then the team kind of helps him figure out how he can do it better. But that is Ramadan. That is the spirit of a Muslim, that you're not going to eat or drink during the day, and you're going to do that in dedication to your God. Now, the big one is the Hajj. And the Hajj occurs in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, which you can see on the map here. And this is a massive event. So once a year, they have the Hajj. And in this event, you have people coming from all over the world, millions of people. And they have this multi-day journey where they have to do specific tasks. And one of them is going to be in this building here and circle around this box called the Kaaba, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. As you can see, there's the Kaaba. This box with all these people around it, looks tiny, right? It's right there. This is the massive stadium built for this event. And look at the massive amounts of people, millions of people here for this event. And so you're going to watch a video and you're going to do a little bit of a worksheet that focuses on what happens during this. And it's really interesting to see because they have to go to many places. They have to walk certain places. They have to do something called throwing stones to the devil. There's slaughter of animals. There's lots of different things that are a part of it. So you'll look a little bit more into this event. Now the Kaaba, that looks like a box, right? Here's the story behind that. So according to Islam, this is the site where Abraham met with Ishmael near the end of his life. And God told him to build a sanctuary there. And so the Kaaba is the place of that sanctuary. It's 40 feet tall, wide, and long. It's got a stairway to get to the doorway, which is about 7 feet up. I believe the doorway is covered right here. And within the Kaaba, there's believed to be a black stone given to Abraham from God. And you can see this black stone right here. It's within the building. You can look at it. So God instructed Abraham and his followers, according to Islam, to go on pilgrimage there once in a lifetime. And that's why they have the Hajj. That's where it comes from. So once in a lifetime, you'll make a journey and you'll join with everybody else here. Now, as you can imagine, during the coronavirus pandemic, this is not going to happen as it would this way, because it would certainly turn into a super spreader event. But normally in a pre-pandemic world, you would have millions of people coming to this location. Here's the inside of the Kaaba, if you would be able to go inside. All right, main beliefs about Islam. You can write down what's in black. The rest is more details. You don't have to worry about that if you don't want to. The first one, God is one, all-powerful, all-knowing, creator of all. He has no offspring and no human characteristics. So this right here eliminates Jesus as being God. Jesus is a holy prophet. He's a very important prophet, and Muslims will tell you that. However, they do not believe that God had children. They do not believe that God had human characteristics. So Jesus can only be a prophet. So Muslims would argue that Jesus himself would be upset with the way people treat him because he never meant to be seen as a god. He was just God's prophet. Different beliefs there. All powerful, all knowing, creator of all. Same beliefs we see with that you see with Judaism and Christianity. So some similarities, some differences. They do not believe in Holy Spirit, as Christians do. God provided divine books, the Quran, the Gospels, the Torah, and as we said, they believe only the Quran is completely pure and the others have been tainted over time. They believe in the prophets. Muhammad is the last prophet and he is the greatest prophet. They also believe in heaven and hell. And they believe that everything happens according to God's desire. And so God is in charge. We have free will, but God has what he desires happen. So there you go, main beliefs of Islam. Some of the rites of passage. The first one, Aqiqah, is a ceremony for devout Muslims 7 days after birth, where you have the baby's head is shaved and the baby is given a name in Muslim. A lot of times you see the name as Muhammad or his wife Khadijah. People will take those same names, so it's not unusual to see that. So here is one example of this event. Marriage. Marriage is traditionally arranged by the parents. This is changing depending on where you live. Some places it's arranged, sometimes it's not. Islam does currently allow polygamy, which is the marriage to more than one woman. And so men can marry more than one woman. I do not believe women can marry more than one man. And the Quran allows marriage up to 4 women if you can treat them equally. But treating them equally is the difficult part there. This is hotly debated. Some places believe that this should be allowed still. Others disagree and do not believe that polygamy should be allowed within Islam. So different ideas there. For the marriage ceremony, it's attended by family and the community. It extends throughout the night. And a lot of times men and women are separate. They celebrate separately. So kind of a different feel to it. And it shows the culture. In Islam, especially in more traditional Islamic countries, we do see that men and women are more separated. in society than we do in a lot of other religions. So a few of the holy days. Sorry, this isn't updated. Let me take a second and update this. Let's pause the video for a second. Okay, so we have our major holidays updated. The first one, Muhammad's birthday, is in October. We see Ramadan, the month of fasting, will happen between April and May. And then the Hajj will occur in July. And it'll be interesting to see what they do at the Hajj this year with COVID, and whether that will be something that will happen on a large scale, or if it only happened for people in Saudi Arabia, and how they will work with that. So this is what we have for our first unit. Please let me know if you have any questions. And then our next video will focus on part 2, the history of Islam. So have a great day, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.